Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. Sorry if that sounded a bit weird when I said hello and then it sounded like this. I was like talking into my mic because I was trying to see. I couldn't see if I actually turned my microphone on or not. And I was like, I don't know why I looked there when I could have just looked at the levels in OBS. That's a lot easier and actually looks at my screen. But yeah, you know what? I actually had a dream relating to Animal Crossing, at least specifically recording Animal Crossing. There's not really much to say about it. I guess we'll get onto it in a little bit. But hello everyone. We're now in Fawnhallow at 6:13 p.m. on Thursday, January 9th, 2025. I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. What happened in my dream? I mean, there's not really much to it. I actually had two dreams, like, recently. One was very cool, and there's this one where I was just like, is this the first time I've had a dream about recording something? Maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, I had a dream that I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but I think it was like my Animal Crossing save got corrupted or something. Like I was playing it and then it like glitched out, something horrible happened, and then I was like, oh, I've recorded the entire thing and I was muted, or like no audio's gone. I can't remember, something like what happened. I told you there wasn't really much of substance in that dream. It just sort of happened. And I was like, no, something bad happened while I was recording, and then I woke up and I was like, whoa. I think that's the first time I've had like a streaming or not streaming, recording based stream. Maybe not. Maybe I've spoken about it before. Maybe someone remembers like, oh, you actually brought it up in episode 384, and I was like, whoa, okay, fair enough. I don't remember that. But yeah, that happened at the very least. You might be like, hey, you talk about the fact that you lucid dream quite a lot. Why was that not lucid dream? You know, get this question out of the way. No one asked, but still. I mean, I don't. It's not like I lucid dream every dream, and when I do, it's more like you can have the option. Kind of, it sounds like a weird way to phrase it, but it's kind of true. You have like the option to like make it lucid or not. Like when you're aware you're in a dream. At least I do. You know, I'm just like, oh, I'm lucid dreaming, and I'm just like, let's just see how this goes. Or I'm just like, oh, let's do something else. It's kind of like watching, watching TV or something. If every TV show you could watch and then change exactly to be how you desired, you might get a little bit bored, right? You might be like, I want to see what other people can create, except for the other people, I guess, is your subconscious. I don't know. When I phrase it like that, it feels weird. Anyway, that's not the point. The other dream I had recently was about sort of like saving the world in a weird thing. And I was trying to think, because it feels like it's very much based off something, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what. I was thinking, well, I mean, that'd be like mild spoilers, but something which happens in Genshin Impact, but it's not quite the same. But the general concept of it was, I don't know, it was just world as we knew it. For some reason I had the ability to teleport, I think. I can't remember if it exactly, but like I could put like waypoints. I'm not sure waypoints are the best things. It's like I could teleport to like these little stones or like earrings sort of things, and I can't really remember exactly the details. This was like a week ago or something. And it turns out the apocalypse was happening, like where the world was ending. There was like a wave of darkness and corruption washing over everything. I can't remember exactly the details, but for some reason I teleported to America because for some reason my parents were there, and I don't know, like I was like, if the world is ending, I'm going to spend my last few moments with my family, and I was like, okay, fair enough. Just willed it into existence. I feel like the teleporting thing wasn't naturally in the dream. I think that might have been a lucid part, I can't remember. Where I was just like, well, I'd rather spend these last moments with people I care about. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to just teleport. Change how the story's going. And then another part, like it actually happened. Like it was, I mean, you might be like, is it kind of nightmarish? It wasn't actually, but like this wave of, if you know League of Legends, there's a character called Syndra who summons these dark orbs. It's like these waves of dark orbs or something washing over the city, which I guess must have been New York City. I'm not really sure. I haven't been to New York since I was like 5 maybe, so I don't really know, probably even younger actually, so I don't really remember what it looks like, but I just assumed in my dream it was New York. Anyway, but the long and short of it is at some point I somehow survived, I suppose, the initial wave or whatever, and it was just like me and like became like an apocalyptic movie, me surviving with some others, and then for some reason I was like the chosen one, being like, oh, come on, dear darling, you've got to save the world somehow. And then, I can't remember exactly how it came to be. I don't know if it was a prophecy or whatever. But then it ended up being that it was like very shonen fashion, which is why I think it was like kind of like a Genshin Impact story, like everyone being like, oh, I'm gonna like sacrifice my life and like remember me, you know, dear darling, and I'm like, no, or whatever, as they like zombie apocalypse style, you know, except for the zombies don't exist, they're all like dark orbs or something. As people like sacrifice their life for me or something to do something, I can't remember what exactly, like gain some power, I guess, of some kind, until it came down to like the very last wire where for some reason I had like this maternal figure in my group who was no joke, a T-Rex. I'm not sure why, and I'm trying to remember it now, but she did something which allowed me to persevere on. And what basically happened, it was I managed to reset the entire timeline, and this is why it gets like interesting as like a short story sort of concept, but I managed to reset everything, like the entire world and universe in existence, straight back to the beginning, and I was the one who was like in control of it. And then like it's not like I made the things happen, it's like I recreated the things as they happened from like people's collective memory or something. I think that was maybe it. Maybe I was getting the ultimate power was like getting everyone's memory of like the universe and everyone in history. So like I did like the evolution of like, you know, the creatures, etc., all these billions of years until it came to the present day tense again, like until it came to that moment where I got those powers once again. And then with the powers, I'm like, okay, now everything I built on does not have to be from the carvings and etchings of the collective memory of all of existence, you know, because that thing was like, that was all written in stone. No, you know, that was like, that happened, that there was immutable, unchangeable past, but I still had to recreate it or something. And then from that moment onwards, I was just like, okay, now, you know, the future is my destiny, my thing to change. So, and I just like undid all the waves and like somehow brought people back. And I don't know, it doesn't make sense. It was basically a shonen movie, in a dream. I mean, it was sort of like a happily ever after somehow from that. It was a very interesting experience, because I feel like obviously it makes no sense me saying it out loud. I also forgot most of the details by now, because this was, again, like a week ago, I think. It was on Sunday, I think I had a dream, waking up on Monday. So I remember we spoke about it in the pub quiz, very, very briefly. But I was thinking, I was like, that's a really interesting concept for like a short story. You know, some sort of lead up where you have to save a world, right? Apocalypse scenario, you save a world. How you do so is by collecting the memories of not just people who are alive and everything, but all memories of all consciousnesses in existence previously, including things like, I guess, non-sentient beings like rocks or things like that. Just more like you're collecting the etched in memory of existence from like a very base principles level, I guess, throughout all of history. Sort of like you find a timeline of what every single atom in the entire universe was. And that was the ultimate power. And then somehow managing to reset the entire timeline to forcibly reconstruct the entire world as you know up to that moment. Again, from that etched in memory. And I was like, I don't know how to explain it, but I was like, that seems like a really cool concept for something, for like a climax of like a shonen series or whatever, which has all been leading up to this moment. Right? You know, it's kind of like the Spideyverse, the concept of like canon events, like these things have to happen, except for it was like it etched into like a permanent memory of these atoms, like the world can only be created from these set of instructions of a historical roles of what each of these atoms, elements, etc. were, and being able to recreate that. There's like a certain tragedy in it, because I suppose, you know, there's a lot of cruel things which have happened in the world, and if you were like an ultimate being who you could redefine the world from the first principles once again, I'm sure you would love to change some of it. So I guess there's like some inherent, I guess that's why it's interesting, it's sort of like omnipotency at a cost. Like you're omnipotent, kind of, not really omnipotent, because if you're omnipotent I guess you could do anything, but you're omnipotent in that you have like ultimate control over everything, but you are forced to do something because that's how like fate ordains it or something. Obviously, if this was an actual story, you'd have to probably justify it more, you'd probably have to think about it, and then also if I was creating it, I would have to think about like, what message am I trying to convey, what sort of ideas am I trying to explore here, you know, is this like exploring the idea of determinism, free will, how's this all coming together, what statement am I trying to say? And you might be like, maybe there is no statement you're trying to say, maybe you're just trying to create a cool story, and fair enough, things don't necessarily have to be any deeper than that. But it was just sort of like interesting, I think, for me to be like, what a cool concept for a thing. well, at least I thought it was a cool concept for, well, I'm not exactly sure what yet, but it felt like a cool concept for something. It felt like a cool concept for, I don't know, some better writer than me to be able to bring it forward and actually make something from it, you know? Unfortunately, I don't think that's something so easily accessible, right? Because I think it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I hope someone else can do this, but I don't know. I can't explain why I think it's cool, because I think it's I guess I think it's interesting from a more philosophical concept of anything. This idea of, I don't know. I guess maybe it was interesting to think about what I would do in that situation, despite the fact technically I was in that situation in Dream, and if you really even have a choice. Just this sort of idea of ultimate power at the cost of no free will, I suppose, for it. Maybe that's the best way to put it. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, what world? I don't know what I'm gonna call this. Maybe that could make like an interesting creation myth, I suppose, for the story, for a story. The world was created this way because it had already been created that way before. You are just living in the recreation of a world up until the moment the apocalypse happens, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully the apocalypse doesn't happen, I would say. And yeah. You might be like, what happens in the epilogue of that story? I think I just continue living like a normal life, except for I just have like, I'm like an omnipotent being or something at that point, with I guess secret powers, which I don't know, I guess I hide? I guess if I had omnipotency, I probably would hide it. Like, I mean, there's no way to live a normal life. And until you start, like, I guess becoming immortal or something. I don't know. I don't know how easy it would be to hide immortality. You would have to, like, change your identity or something. Right? I don't know. Obviously, I don't do this. Big spoilers. I'm not a spy, I guess. I don't work in espionage. But I'm trying to think about it now, because immortality, let's say it's a forever young kind of immortality. How do you hide that? You just don't, I guess. Because at some point you're just gonna be like, you know, I've been friends. You know, I've been like, if you make any sort of friends or like relationships or whatever, and be like, you know, I've been with you for like my entire life, but you know, the like 50 years I've known you, you haven't looked like you aged a single bit. How do you explain that? I don't know. So it's not like every 30 years or so. Like, you got to reach a limit, or when people start being suspicious, you just sort of had to, like, abandon that life or something and go adopt a new one? I don't know. I don't even know how you do that, to be honest. I mean, hopefully I would never have to do that, mind you. I kind of like my identity and my life, I suppose, as it is. But I'm talking about from a theoretical concept. I assume there must be a way to do it, you know. I assume that the spies have got that figured out, or whatever, how to create a false identity or whatever. So I guess really, if you're immortal, you should become a spy in your first life, so you can learn all the ins and outs about having to sort of discard your identity and retake it up again, and then just employ that over and over and over again somehow. I don't know. Well, if I do turn out to be immortal, then I suppose I have to figure it out I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But for now, as far as I know, I'm not immortal. But yeah, again, maybe that black orb apocalypse hasn't happened. Maybe I'll meet that T-Rex maternal figure in my life. He'll be the final one to perish before I can save the world and reconstruct it from 2 billion years ago or something again. I don't know. How old's the world? How old is time? There's a very interesting mix of both philosophical and absolutely surreal sort of conversation, which I feel like I'm having right now. I don't know what else I was going to say about that. I don't know. I just had to talk out loud about it, because I was like, there's something to this constrained omnipotency story idea, but I just haven't found that thread to pull on it. Also, I don't really write stories much anymore. The writing group has been on hiatus for ages. Mainly we just don't really have the time for it anymore. I did most writing with short stories as well. But you know, I could see myself writing a short story based off this if I thought about it. I don't remember what the last short story I wrote was. Lots of cool stuff though. I don't know. I wonder what our last prompt was for the writing group. I think. Oh yeah, it was a different prompt. Immortality, vengeance, sacrifice. That was the one from before. I remember that one. I actually remember my story for that one. That one I did about like an immortal Lich Queen who wanted to die, kind of. But then we had a different prompt, which I can't remember. We took from like writing prompts or something. You're an immortal who got tired of living, decided to take a nice 1,000-year nap. In a coffin 6 feet underground, 500 years later your sleep is interrupted by some inexperienced grave robbers. I will say I do prefer the word prompts in writing things because I feel like it's easier for me to... I prefer taking a prompt and then constructing my own story around it, while this one it feels like is a bit more rigid in the direction. I'm looking at my prompts now. Remembering my stories. My last few I actually quite liked them. Abandoned Happiness Flowers, I remember that one. That was lucky. That was about a dog. A dog created by an author who somehow was sentient. Arrow Fender Dirty? That was like, what was it? An arrow flies true or something? I can't remember exactly what I titled it. So, I remember this one. I talked about this in Animal Crossing as well. It was about, I wrote it with the intention that it was someone talking to someone who was a traitor, essentially, but the traitor finding redemption, kind of, quote, quote, and being able to sort of like martyr himself. But the person who was initially speaking was like, I'm not going to accept this martyrdom as your redemption. But then it got interpreted, like there was a double meaning to it, where half the people who read the story, when we read through it, interpreted it a different way, but I can't remember what way they interpreted it was. I bet I made notes on it. That sounds like a me thing to do. Because I very much remember talking about it. And being like, whoa, like I fully did not intend that, but that's a really, really cool thing which happened. Oh, that's it, and an arrow continues forward. What was it? What did I see? Post-analysis, interesting double interpretation. Person who people see as good betraying someone won't someone to be lauded as a hero. I know what you did. You can still change things. You can still change us. I won't. Person who people see as good betraying someone to be lauded as a hero. Or, my intention was, a person who is bad seeking redemption does not receive external redemption, but learns that redemption for them is to do the right thing in spite of external judgment. Right, that's it. It was like people saw it as the first person being like, you don't have to do this. You can still, change things. And then the other person being like, I won't. And then being remembered as a hero. Interesting. I completely forgot about that. That's cool. Man, when I look at it out of a lens of like the stories I wrote were not by me, from an analytical perspective, it's always fun. I guess analysing things can be quite fun. Dusk Glass 1 Market. This was the story. This was a poem. This is the second poem I did. Where it was like, what did I call it? Like, in another place in another time? Something like that? Or at the same place at the same time. Yeah, and it was a tragic love story, kind of. I remember this. It's all coming back to me. Where it was like, these two people would have been perfect matches for each other had they just met at a different point, at a different time of their lives. I actually like that in the concept. I love concepts of stories, if you couldn't tell. Now writing them, I'm just like, no, I actually had to write them. War of the planet Mars bitter. Oh, I remember. This one I did as a conversation between two aliens, and about humanity in this future had already ended their own existence. Earth Trail Married. I don't remember what Earth Trail Married is. Was that Raise Your Glass? No, that's Wasteland Betrayal Wine. What's Earth Trail Married? Sisyphean Circle? Is it that one? That's Illusion Hell Music Journey. Earth Trail Married. Daffodil's Garden? Oh, Hiking Trail Married. Oh, it was Daffodil's Garden. Okay, fair enough. That was like my attempt at horror. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So, I don't know, Constrained Omnipotency. I guess that would be the title of this episode. I know it'll make no sense whatsoever. But if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling, and likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.